Hi, it's Kristen. This week on our 10 to 20 podcast, we're talking about middle schoolers and dating. Sounds like a pretty scary topic for a lot of parents, but it's something that we all have to deal with. So I have with me body language expert Blanca Cobb, and Blanca and I are going to talk about some of the how-tos and ways to navigate this brand new situation that we all have to go through at some point. Thanks for being here, and I hope you enjoy this week's show. Hi, everybody. This is Kristen, and today on the show, I am with body language expert Blanca Cobb. And Blanca and I are going to talk about a very touchy little situation that if you have kids in middle school, you may or may not have already hit, which is middle school dating. When is it too early? What do you do? Your kid comes up to you and says, "Hey, Mom, I've got a crush on so-and-so." How do you navigate the dating waters with your... Some of them would be tweens at that age, but definitely young teenagers with a middle school emphasis. And feel free to send us some tweets and comments. Although you're listening to this, it's already been recorded. We'll definitely catch them on Twitter. You can catch 10 to 20 at 10TO20. And without further ado, I would like to introduce the lovely Blanca Cobb. Hi, Blanca.
Hi, hola, how are you?
Hola, I'm great. It's almost summertime.
I know.
Holy
smoke.
Which means what? Summer lovin'? Little Grease
Summer
reference?
lovin'. That's right, summer lovin'.
Can we hope that, some of these little summer romances just will... Oh, we shouldn't say dissipate, but, it's an interesting...
A lot of parents want it to dissipate. They're cringing right now when they're thinking about middle schoolers and romance. Who are you kidding?
Well, and it's interesting because, to me, dating... I don't know about you. I remember back to middle school, and I think my only boyfriend, and I use that term very loosely, in middle school was Kevin DeBrule. And I think he and I definitely were the kind that we made really good friends, and then we, went out together. That's what the term was in the 80s, was we went out together. We never went
where were you
out.
going?
We didn't go anywhere. That's the misnomer. We never went out anywhere.
And that's a good point you bring up, because it's the same misnomer now. I have parents asking me, why is it that my middle schooler wants to start dating? Okay, are they really dating? What does a boyfriend and girlfriend term really mean to your kid versus what it means to you? And sometimes it can be a very big difference.
It is a big difference. And there is no such thing really as solo dating. It's all... it's all group setting.
Yeah, exactly.
So do they have to get each side to agree on the other side for dating purposes, or what?
What do you mean?
Well, if you're group dating, then does everybody have to have a partner that they pair up with, like a do-si-do, or is it just the king and queen?
That. No, they do that. These young tweens, young teenagers. No, we're talking about what, 12, 13-year-olds?
Yeah, 12 to 14.
Yeah, 12 to 14. They get really slick.
Yeah, they do.
They try to get certain boys who like certain girls, and they want to go out of this group event. Right now it's the movies.
Right.
Right? And so I can just sit there envisioning that you go as a group, but you end up as pairs, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So it's not like you're sitting together in the dark theater. You have one couple, one corner, another couple in the middle. They're all over the place, but they think that they're schooling their parents when they talk about a group date.
Right. So how does it start?
I'm onto them.
Are we, you had a situation this year. You encountered your first dating experience. I remember because I was privy to the freak out. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do?
Yeah, it's very interesting to be on that side. So to respect my daughter's privacy, or now that it's told the whole world, but to respect my teen's privacy, I'm not going to talk much about that situation because there are too many people who know us, and that
Absolutely.
That would be too embarrassing for her. So
and we would respect that. So let's talk ambiguously then. So,
yes.
I've got an 8th grader who is kind of starting to navigate this, and we love the guy, we love the kid, and they were friends. They've been friends. It's kind of like that same situation with me and Kevin, in the fact that they were buddies, and he would talk to her about other girls that he liked, and she would. There was even a situation, I think, for 30 seconds, he dated a friend of hers, and which meant then later, after the kid broke up with him, that he was off limits now because of girl code. And it's kind of interesting to watch the girlfriend side of it, if there are multiples, and I don't mean that in that kind of funky way, but just like if there's more than one. I mean, I don't know, it seems like there's a small pool. I don't know, I'm not in that world, but it goes back to the whole group setting. They're all in such groups that they're all friends together, that you don't want to encourage them to like date each other and pass each other around. That's not.
No. I think the biggest thing for parents is to realize, while you still have any type of influence over your teens, this is the best time to start teaching them how to navigate their romantic interest, to learn what's appropriate in terms of communication and how to act and behave with the person that they're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they allowed to hold hands? Are they allowed to hug? What types of things are they allowed to talk about? And I'm talking about things in code, because what you have to realize is that teenagers are starting to reach puberty at younger ages from our own generation. So if they're hitting puberty at younger ages, hormones are being released earlier. So they're going to start developing these romantic interests. But I think this is a great time to help them understand what's appropriate and what isn't appropriate, how to behave in the school setting versus a home setting. And what does it actually mean to be a boyfriend or a girlfriend?
Right.
Is it just in name only? Because your definition and their definition can be very different. And here's my challenge to parents. So what if they call each other boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yeah.
What does that really mean?
Right.
If they're only seeing each other at school anyway, where is highly monitored, big deal.
Yeah.
My philosophy is, when you make that fruit so forbidden, it becomes juicier.
Absolutely.
And it becomes more tempting. And they're going to find ways to go behind your back to get what they want. And that's when you need to be concerned. Because then you have promiscuity. They start talking about sex. They start engaging in sex acts, touching different body parts. And if you're out of that situation where they're not going to talk to you about it, just imagine the kind of trouble your young teen could possibly get into.
And you can't be afraid of it. I mean, is, if you haven't, and I know 6th grade, in 5th grade, they started the whole, let's start talking about our bodies and sex and things of that nature. So it not only are, so in defense of the schools, they are reacting to the fact that these kids are going through puberty sooner, but the conversation needs to be at home as well. It needs to be, like you said, what's appropriate. Is the kissing piece of it, is that okay? What is a kiss? How to handle just the social issue of it. What happens if you have a fight? How public do you get about it? Different things of that nature. And then taking the boy or girl piece out of it, it goes back to technology. And now, really, you need to make sure that you're not using these smartphones for things such as taking pictures. Excuse me, sending messages, because it's even more tempting when those hormones have kicked in to say, oh, well, Billy wants me to send him and they are so confused at this age. They're still so confused at this age. So if you as parents are not talking to them, you better get talking.
Yes, because if they're not getting the correct information from you, they're going to get the wrong information from their friends.
Absolutely. And you and I have talked about this before. It's like, I would rather you, as embarrassing as it may be, get your information from me than some kid that's your same age who's going to tell you some crazy stuff. Just to remind everybody, we're talking to body language expert Blanca Cobb. Please send us a tweet and give us your opinion and feedback at 10TO20 at 10 to 20. So let's talk about the technology aspect of it.
Yes. Well, I was with 4 teenagers this weekend, and they were talking about Snapchat. And I don't know much about Snapchat, so I took that opportunity when I was talking to this group teen of girls to find out, in their opinion, what they liked about it. All this, my group of teens, all of them did not have Snapchat. A couple of them did. So I wanted to know, how is Snapchat the same or different than a text message? Because initially when I was told, oh, you can send pictures and you can have group chats, I'm like, well, how's that any different than a regular text message? So then they go on to explain that you can see pictures, what is it, 24 hours, I think? And then they disappear.
In the storyline, yeah.
Yeah, in the storyline. And I said, disappear? What do you mean by disappear? Well, it's not on your account anymore. I said, that's right. But where does it really go? And to start getting them to start thinking about the repercussions.
Well, and Snapchat came into a lot of fire at the end of last year because all of a sudden, they're touting the fact that it is gone forever, and then they had to come up and say, well, actually, it's not. And it's not just Snapchat; it's the apps that go with it. It's the apps that will enable them to take a screenshot. So while they think it might be gone forever, there might be somebody on the other side taking a screenshot. The one good thing is I've noticed with playing it around with my kids is that if it's native, like if they're literally doing a screenshot on their phone as opposed to a third-party app, it'll tell you that so-and-so took a screenshot. So that person took a screenshot. But once they take a screenshot, it's an image, and it's there forever. They can do with it what they will.
Exactly. And I've already talked to my teen about the inappropriateness of taking photos. Because I said, even if you were to get a photo and you were to send it to somebody else, and let's say it's a girl's breast, you find that and you send it, I said, that's still considered child pornography.
Absolutely. We were having this conversation with the kids, or I was, a couple of weeks ago. I said, and they will. I said, it would be our luck, you would be the one scapegoat. I said, will most parents do it? Probably not, but if they want to, they sure golly could.
Yes. They need to understand that there are repercussions to their actions.
Absolutely.
To their decisions. Serious repercussions.
And this is really kind of going off topic, but there's also the whole side of it with just anonymous kind of stuff, friending people. The whole, just because he says he's a 16-year-old guy and he looks really, really hot, it could be like that scumbag, surly, 52-year-old guy sitting up in, some Midwestern town. So I mean, there's just too many scary stories, especially in that middle income to high income bracket for kids that are being suckered into and sold off to sex trafficking.
Exactly. It is scary.
It is very scary. But let's go back to the more innocent of let's just hold hands and kiss behind the bleachers.
Right.
But going back to 8th grade, I remember, the house parties, and when I say that, I mean, we'd go to the birthday party at somebody's house, and the parents were, kind enough to leave us to our own privacy. Well, they probably should have been circling through that room at least once or twice. No, seriously. Seriously. And, it's crazy. And I had a friend in middle school who was having sex by the time she was in the 7th grade.
Crazy.
And single parent, never home. She knew exactly when her dad got home. She could time it. They knew.
And you bring up a really good point, because I think this is a time when you start noticing that your kids are interested in dating, or even before that they have to understand that there's such a responsibility to having sex or engaging in any type of sexual activity. It's not just the feel-good moment of 5 minutes or whatever. It's also the repercussions of it. What does it really mean? And how do you process it? How do you process this? And the responsibility that comes with it. That they have to understand that just because you allow someone to look at your body, or you allow someone to touch you, or you do that to somebody else, what does that really mean in the big picture for them?
Mm-hmm.
There are consequences, and we're talking about STDs, we're talking about pregnancies, we're talking about the rumor mill, we're talking about damage to reputations, we're talking about embarrassment, because who you think is your boyfriend or girlfriend today, and you can trust them. That's a problem with a lot of adults. It's this blind trust. I'm crazy about this person. They said they're never going to hurt me. Well, they have those good intentions, but you look at teen love, just like you look at marriages, what's the divorce rate, or what is the breakup rate? It's huge.
No, but nobody gets married with the thought of getting divorced. Nobody starts dating someone with the thought of breaking up, right?
No,
if you did it, nobody would ever get together.
Right. But it's the reality.
It is the reality, which is why, I've even told my husband, I'm like, the only ink I will ever put on my skin is if I birth them. Seriously. Like, you look at all these people that put their husbands in that, whatever, that's fine, that's great for you, but let me tell you something. Unless I birthed you, your name does not get inked on my skin. Not that any of my kids have ink on my skin yet, but it's that kind of that same thing. And that to me is the same attitude, even more so when it comes to promiscuous pictures. I wouldn't even send them to my husband, I don't think.
No. And girls particularly need to understand the difference between appropriate attention and inappropriate attention. And I have had this talk with my teen, and I talked to groups of parents about this. If you take sex off of the table with a boy and you don't talk about it, if he's really interested about you as an individual, as a person, then he's still going to like you.
Yep.
But if all he's interested in is talking about sex, or whether he can cop a feel at school when no one's looking, and that's all he's interested in, and you take that off the table, then he's not interested in you, then he was interested in you for the wrong reasons. It wasn't about you. It's what he thought he was going to get from you.
Absolutely.
And it's hard for these young girls to realize that.
Because they're in love with the prospect of being in love.
Exactly. Absolutely. Look, we all grew up with the fairy tales. I grew up with the fairy tales too.
Yes.
My daughter's generation grew up with a Disney fairy tale. Well, that's just not reality. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's just not what's typical.
Well, and even if it does happen, there's a payment. There's always a price to pay. There's
a trade-off.
Yeah, there's always a price to pay. And it just, what is that price that a conversation we've had before too is, the girls that graduate from college with an MRS degree. And no, seriously, and that's
the wrong degrees.
Yeah, it's like having it, and I describe it to my kids like, I want to be married to your dad. I don't have to be married to your dad. Marriage as marriage as an institution has changed. And I told my kids, I said, let's talk about why, how marriage started way back in the day. These women were being bartered off for cows. They were it was a dowry.
I know, it sounds awful.
It was a dowry. Then it moved into taking care of the kids, that you have enough kids to farm to outfit your farm. And then it was, and so dad could go work. So I said, now we're in a situation where as a modern woman, you don't have to, and today you don't even have to have a man to have a baby.
This is so true.
I'm not discrediting the value of matrimony by any stretch of the imagination. So please don't send me hate mail or tweets. But what I'm trying to teach my daughters and young women that I encounter is that there's more to life than that. And there's more to life than a partner. Do you want to have somebody to share these experiences with? Absolutely.
Yes.
And that brings up another point, is teaching them, I can't use the phrase I want to use, but friends always come first.
Yes.
Friends always come first.
You don't put a boyfriend in front of your girlfriend.
No, never. And vice versa.
What happens when you break up and you've ignored your girlfriends? Who's there for you? Right. Nobody.
And let's not make this just about girls. It's the same for boys.
Absolutely.
The boys should not, cast off their buddies, and, you need to have your own interests, because especially when you're 14, my God, you have a limited pool of interests anyhow.
This is true.
But don't give up soccer, because your boyfriend plays basketball.
Exactly. No, absolutely. You're absolutely head on that. Let's talk a little bit about how you know your boyfriend or girlfriend is really into you.
Yes, please, let's. Because why? Blanca is a body language expert.
Well, one, you can always tell by their nonverbals if they're interested in you, right? They're going to be physically closer to you. So moms and dads, don't be freaking out there. What I'm talking about is they'll get physically closer. Doesn't mean they necessarily have to be touchy-feely, but they're going to want to be closer together. They're going to look at you. They're going to lean forward. They're going to give you eye contact. They're going to walk with you in the hallways. That's how you know when someone's really into you. When you have conversations, they're going to pay attention. This is not the time for them to be playing on their iPhone. They're going to take an interest in what you have to say. And then they're also, you're not going to be able to see it, but you're going to be able to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give you agreement, or they may nod their head and go, uh-huh, in order to encourage you to keep talking. But what gets interesting is that how do you know when that interest is start to dwindle? Because at the beginning of any relationship, it's overpowering of these emotions and these feel-good feelings. And you want to be with that person. You're very interested in what they have to say, and you're engaged and you're smiling. But what happens over time is when you're talking, that they might start losing interest. They might start looking away, or I got to go. They'll have a lot of excuses, more and more time lags in between when they return your phone call or they respond to a text message. But you also have to keep in mind, are they at family dinner? Are they at a sporting event? Are they doing homework?
Right. No obsessing.
Exactly. No obsessing. So you have to start gauging a pattern. But once it starts dwindling away, and a huge sign is if they start talking about let's say you have a boyfriend and he starts talking about other girls. Like, for example, I was thinking that maybe when I get older, me and Susie Q may start dating. Well, what? You have to think about what they're telling you. If he's really into you, he's not going to be talking about another girl in a girlfriend capacity. Just like if you're a guy and your girlfriend starts talking about other boys. Oh, did you see Charlie on the track field? I mean, look how fast he ran. Can you believe it? He blew this record. Now, it's great to be happy for your friends, but there's another way of being like really happy for your friends.
Yeah, we had that, our first instance with dating with another daughter. Mm-hmm. Who is a very friendly person, obviously, and she didn't navigating that one of no one can tell you who to talk to.
Oh.
However, if you're with somebody, it's not cool to talk about other guys like that, and that's it's kind of like almost like a catch-22. But that's a big thing for me is that obsessive possessive partner, if you will, that says you can't talk to that person. No, that's not cool.
Yeah, it's not healthy. And that's a really good point you bring up, Kristen, because as parents, I think that's when you take the opportunity to talk about relationships. And what I was talking about earlier, what's appropriate, inappropriate, that's a time for you, if you have that open communication with your teen, to say, okay, let's talk a little bit about possessiveness and obsessiveness and what that means. And you have to draw it out. You just can't use these words and think your teen's going to get it. You're going to have to give them specific examples like what you just gave, Kristen.
Right.
Mom, I can't believe that, my boyfriend is talking to Mary Jane. Okay, you're allowed to talk to other girls or other boys. It doesn't mean more than that unless you see something else.
Right.
Are they holding hands? Well, that's a huge sign that it's crossed the line, right?
Kind of a key indicator.
Yeah, But just because people talk doesn't necessarily mean there's a malicious intent.
No, but they're so insecure at this age that it's not uncommon for them to want to take it off and take it. But yeah, I mean, so I'm sorry, but I kind of like fielded you off. So keep up with what are some of the other signs, and what are some of the signs? Let's actually talk about this, and to throw you under the bus, like I love to do. What are some of the signs that parents can look out for what could be the beginning of a potentially obsessive and abusive relationship?
Oh, that's where the boyfriend or the girlfriend wants to control, monopolize your kid's time. Who they talk to, how frequently they talk. Does your child have a voice anymore? Does your teen have a voice? Or it's, because my boyfriend said I've got to do this. Oh, my girlfriend wants to do this. It's like when your child's wants and needs are not being met or not being respected by their boyfriend or girlfriend, then that's a warning sign. You have to see what's going on. So let's say, let's say you're about to have family dinner and the phone rings, or there's a little bing that lets you know that there's a text message, and you ask your teens to put the phone away. Oh no, because then Charlie's going to get really mad. I really got to take this. Mm-hmm. What? Wait, what? That's the opportunity, not for you to get pissed off, parents, even though that's how you feel, because as soon as you get pissed off, guess what? You're closing the doors to that communication. That's a learning lesson. This is what I'm talking about, what's appropriate and inappropriate in relationships. This is where you can help navigate this relationship, this romantic interest with your kid, What's appropriate? Okay, this is dinner time. Charlie's going to have to wait, and you're more than welcome to get back to Charlie after dinner because this is our time.
If you saw that happening, would you reach out to the parents of that child?
No. I think a time to reach out to parents are inappropriate texting. And when I'm talking about inappropriate texting, since I'm talking about being specific, if they're talking about sex, they're talking about copying a field, they're talking about pulling the wool over the parents' eyes and lying about a group date event, like going to the movies. Oh, you can just accidentally on purpose show up at the movies and I'm going to go with my group of friends, but I'll just tell my parents that you just showed up there. Okay, those types of things when they're planning and they're really being deceitful because they want to get their way or they really want to see this person, that's the time it crosses the line because that could turn into something dangerous.
Absolutely.
If they're talking about sex, they may have sex, they might engage in sexual activity, they may cop a feel at school, and then we have suspensions to deal with. If they're using, I'll tell you this much. I am amazed at how many middle schoolers drop the F-bomb. It's like saying damn or hell anymore. I'm serious. They drop the F-bomb like I can't believe. So it's that level of language. I mean, and that's what you need to be concerned about. And when it starts crossing lines, and I'm just not saying, okay, you read F-bomb on your kid's text message. That's not a situation to call the parents, but it's giving you a sense of this other person that they're communicating with.
And we've talked about that. Oh, sorry. We've talked about that with when we went through this with the oldest. It's like, I get it. It's sexy. It's fun. However, if a parent grabs their kid's phone and sees that, then one of two things. They're either going to shut you out or they're going to think that or the way I always put it is don't let that be the most intelligent thing that people think you can say.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I like that.
Yeah. So, it's just, they do it, they're going to do it. And, kind of like you said, if you take the oomph out of it, then maybe it won't happen as frequently. But yeah, it's just, in role play, spin that around and say, let's say you're a parent and you grabbed your kid's phone and you saw this. What would you think?
Mm-hmm. Right. Another area where it gets to boundaries and respect is when your teen speaks up for him or herself and tells their boyfriend or girlfriend that they're uncomfortable with something and it falls on deaf ears. Mm-hmm. I don't like when you talk to me this way. I don't like that you're calling me, I don't know if I can say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, a hot piece of ass.
Right.
That's totally inappropriate. But
yeah.
You have to have that level of communication open with your teens that they're going to come to you and say, Mom, what does this mean? Or Dad, what does that mean? Or I heard this. Should I be saying this? Or whatever. When you get angry, you're cutting down. You're making your kid not want to talk to you. They're going to talk to somebody else. Or they're going to keep it inside, which makes it worse.
My 11-year-old this weekend, I don't know what the conversation was, but I think her dad asked her a question, and her response was, "Are you ready?"
Yes,
D's nuts.
Oh my gosh,
that's
crazy.
What?
I know. It's funny, and you want to laugh, but at the same time, you're like, wait, what?
I'm like, that's typically something a guy would say, right?
Exactly. Uh-huh.
Okay, let's strike that one out of our fun things to say line, okay?
And one thing that parents need to realize is you're kidding yourself if you think they're only texting these conversations. Meaning, what do you think they're talking about in person when they're at school, when the teachers aren't around?
Yeah.
They're talking about sex. They're interested. They need help figuring it out. Think about the messages. And this has nothing to reflect on each individual family necessarily. Think about the magazines these girls are seeing. The boys also.
Right.
Think about the images on TV still. It's the same story, just a different generation.
Yes. Nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed except the players.
Exactly. And how they get the information.
And how they get the information.
So
now it's more rapid. It's the internet.
Absolutely. And
there was no internet when I was growing up.
No, there wasn't. And, it's one of those of constant, we don't overly monitor our kids, but we definitely, we know what they're doing, or I know what they're doing, and I check in on them. And I'm sure they're getting away with stuff from me. I'm not stupid.
No.
I'm not stupid, but I also think they also have to kind of learn how to navigate some of this stuff on their own. I let them know, we tell them that, hey, listen, child pornography it doesn't matter that you're only 14. Guess what?
Yep.
So you need to think twice about that. We've had situations where, not we, but I have known of situations where, you've got the one kid that takes a picture of another kid in the shower and then sends it out over, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. And how mortifying. How would that make you feel? How would that make you feel?
See, these kids think it's a joke. It's not a joke. No. You don't make a joke at somebody else's expense.
No.
It's not appropriate.
No, not at all. Not at all. So the other interesting thing, and we've got just a few more minutes with Blanca, but is navigating the piece of, do you become friends with said new love interests? And if so, what do you do when the kid, which they're going to break up? So, how close do you get to them? I'm like, oh, I hope we're not friends beforehand, because that's going to be really awkward.
You mean friends
the
with
parents?
The parents?
Yeah.
Oh, the parents.
Yeah. Don't, Mackenzie's first boyfriend, his mom came up and she's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't want to be friends with you, because this is not going to end well. And, this is just not going to end well. I'm not breaking bread with you. I mean, I'll be cordial, but I don't know. But a lot of people just like go all out, and they're like, oh yay, let's, they're not getting married.
No,
they're 13.
Exactly. That's an interesting situation you bring up, Kristen. I think it depends on each parent. So there are going to be some parents that you're going to click with, that it's going to be an easier conversation than with other parents. But I think, at least for me, I would want to get to know the parents a little bit, because then I get a sense of how involved they are with their, in my case, son, since I'm talking about a teen daughter.
Yes.
So I could get a sense of that, whether I think they have any loose marbles or something. And
I think there does need to be some connection, because I think there needs to be a point that if something does go askew, that you can say, hey, what do you think about this? Like, there's, think about it with your girlfriends, and their parents. I'm finding it very helpful to be friendly with some of their moms now, because now we can kind of discreetly go, so is so-and-so spending the night at your house? No, which this has happened this year. No, they told me they were spending the night at your house. And I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? So that has happened. So, I mean, I think they're, you want to give them a certain amount of opportunity to be free, but by the same token, you don't want them to hang themselves either.
No, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest piece of advice I could give anyone about interacting with your teens, the parents of your teens' love interest, is when you talk to them, you need to make sure how you're coming across, that you're not coming across negatively, or let's say you're against the whole boyfriend-girlfriend label, and then you give them a glare, or you have a harsh tone of voice instead of being friendly. Mm-hmm. Because that really puts up barriers. Because here's the deal. You're kidding yourself if you think your own teen isn't interested. It's just like what you said earlier, Kristen. You don't have a one-way relationship. It takes two to tango. I know everyone has heard that phrase. It's going to take both partners, both the boy and the girl, or if it's a girl and a girl, boy and a boy, whatever the dynamic is, to like each other.
Right.
So if you don't want to have a boyfriend, you don't want your kid to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but you go up to the other parents and you're already giving them the harsh eyes because you think it's their fault, because if they parented the way that you did, then this wouldn't be happening. Come on.
So
you
maybe
can't what you feel on someone else.
Maybe the distinction should be, you can be allies without being friends.
Exactly.
It doesn't, you don't have to be best friends. You don't all have to go out and, go and have coffee or wine or whatever together, but what it is in your benefit, especially once, if it's relatively new, like, give it a couple of weeks to see if it just pans out or fizzles out on its own. But by the same token, you really just want to be able to have somebody that you can check in with, I think is a good way to just compare notes.
Yes.
So-and-so says that, we're going to be doing this. Is that really true? And, hey, by the way, we're going out of town this weekend. And, I don't think you need to be 100%, telling them everything going on, because, your child is still the one that you need to protect.
Exactly.
But there's two sides to that.
Right. That's a really good point. I agree.
Well, that's about all the time that we have. Miss Blanca Cobb, would you please tell everybody where they can reach you and get in touch with you?
Yes, you can reach me at Twitter at Blanca Cobb, on Facebook, Blanca Cobb Body Language Expert, or just hit me up with an email. I'd love to hear from you. Blanca@truthblazer.com.
And for everyone listening, you can subscribe to this podcast on either iTunes or Stitcher. I'm working on getting it up on Storify, but stay tuned. And we cover these kind of topics on our blog, plus more at 10to20.com. That's 10to20.com. And if you have suggestions for a future podcast, or maybe even want to be on one yourself, you can either tweet to me at 10to20, so the number 10, the letters 2, and the number 20, or you can email us at info@10to20parenting.com. Thanks for a good chat. That's some good information, as scary as it might be, Blanca. And until next time, we have to come up with another fun topic to watch. I'm sure we can always find one that is needed for these parents. So that's our show for this week. And remember, when it comes to dealing with kids in the age of 10 to 20, that it's an age and not a sentence. Have a great week.